and this is the West Block: politics, perspectives, and players. As negotiations continue to reach a deal between Mexico, the U.S., and Canada by the end of the month for a new NAFTA agreement, dairy farmers are keeping a close eye on the effect those talks may have on their bottom line. President Trump is pushing for an end to Canada's supply management system to give dairy farmers in the U.S. access to the Canadian market. In a minute, we'll talk to a dairy market analyst, but first, here's what we heard from some dairy farmers in New York about what's happening in their industry and on their farms.
Sullivan County, Orange County, New York State, and a lot of other states, the dairy farmers, it's a major crisis. They might have a contract, but they're not getting paid for their milk. So we're all in a big crisis of
And when you
trying
don't
to
have
survive.
the cows, you do not have a rural America. You don't have a rural upstate New York. We're at a disadvantage. A lot of what we're at a disadvantage is our government has to realize that we need to have a base price. There has to be a base price because you can't go year after year and
our own government
not increase. So a lot of that has to do with our government needs to recognize things too.
I think our government needs to do some, as far as the way our milk is priced, I think we have to have a cost of production figured into the way our milk is priced. It's never been done before. But I also think our industry has to step forward and take an action, and that could be in the way of some supply management.
If things continue the way they are, I don't picture a farm left in the county or the county below us in another 10, 15 years. Sorry.
Joining me now from Madison, Wisconsin is Jerry Dyer, a dairy food market analyst. Jerry, you watch these issues very closely. We just had a chance to hear from some of the farmers in New York about the crisis. How bad is the situation for dairy farmers in the United States?
The situation is difficult right now. Prices are at very low level. It's part of the supply and demand swing of prices. Prices were very high 3 or 4 years ago and triggered too much milk, and now prices are lower. They've sunk. So they've got their back. The less efficient producers have their back against the wall.
So this is as a result of oversupply then, I guess. What's led to that oversupply?
Well, that's the point. The higher prices. I mean, the farmers were getting $25 a hundredweight for their milk 4 years ago, and now they're getting $17 per hundredweight because they responded to that $25 milk price.
So if the problem then is mostly oversupply and as a result low prices for milk, how much of a role is Canada's supply management system creating a problem to the degree that Donald Trump claims it is?
Well, the supply management program itself, most of it is not problematic. The issue is to protect your supply management program, you need to put a very severe limit on the amount of dairy product that comes into Canada. And we're trying to, get the right to move some product into Canada. We were, and the door got slammed about a year ago. And so our outlet for that excess milk is foreign markets. We export almost 20% of the milk we produce in this country, and Canada is a very logical customer, given geography and...
Well, I'm curious then, how much of a difference will it make if American farmers can get access to Canadian dairy markets? Would it be enough to save some of these farms?
That's very hard to say, but I would seriously doubt it. It'd be a very modest increase in the price. In response to the Canadian market completely opening up. Your dairy farmers you were talking to in New York are bearing the brunt of this because they were the ones doing much of that exporting. So it would be more helpful to them than it would, the total dairy industry.
How powerful is the dairy industry in the United States? Because here in Canada, they're certainly very influential. You hear Donald Trump talking about it. Is this kind of a political third rail?
The dairy industry definitely wields some clout. You have dairy production in every state in the country, and so you've got 2 senators, that have dairy farmers as constituents. You have lots of representatives in the House who have dairy farmers as constituents. So yes, they wield a fair amount of clout.
Some of the farmers that we spoke to, Jerry, said that they would like a supply management system like we have here in Canada. They'd like a fixed price of milk. They would like a quota system. Do you believe that that would solve the problem for American farmers? Is the answer here American supply management?
No.
Why not?
It's not the answer. We've seen lots of planned economies around the world crash and burn. You can't stay ahead of, you can't repeal the law of supply and demand. We've gone through this cycle repeatedly. Lower prices, that reduces the flow of milk. It encourages consumption because prices are lower. The price goes up. We respond with too much milk. And that is life. That is called capitalism, alive and well, doing what it was meant to do.
This isn't just a problem, as you just mentioned, for dairy farmers just in the U.S. or dairy farmers who are worried about protecting their market in Canada. It seems to be a global issue. We've heard about it in places like New Zealand and Europe as well. How serious is the dairy situation globally, and do you see there being any improvement in the near future?
It's fairly serious. Milk production has been very strong in the European Union. It's relatively strong in Oceania, New Zealand and Australia, which are both exporters of dairy products, as well as the EU. But Mother Nature is stepping in and starting to solve some of that problem. The EU has had extreme heat and drought. We have weather issues here in the USA that are going to limit our supply. And so that's another leg on the milk stool, in terms of impacting the markets, that Mother Nature herself will trim production and help bring the markets back into balance.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jerry. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Mercedes Stephenson for the West Block.